Hello everyone, welcome back to another Trenton World 3 roadmap update video. This is the June update, and let's just say it's going to be a very good one. So a little sort of summary of what there is going to be in this roadmap. So a closer look at the Glossop line, an update to the Thameslink Class 700. Remember we are getting the RLU for that. An update on the Trenton timetable improvements, updates from Just Trains on their unannounced route, and an update on upcoming patches and also inside development. So the roadmap, where has that month gone? May has flown by, and with it a sizable Steam Core update and the release of Peak Forest, Ambergate to Chinley and Buxton, which has had favourable feedback from you lovely lot. We've also just given away LGV Mediterranean free for a week, so we will hope you were quick and got in there. We saw loads of you jumping in and trying the content, which was exactly what we were hoping. We hope you enjoyed a slice of French high-speed pie. Bon appetit. This month we'll be taking a deeper dive at the upcoming Glossop line, including details from the timetable and some unique work on the scenarios. And if that's not enough, we'll also have an alternative in-depth look at the upcoming Class 700. A further update on the Northeast Corridor New York Trenton timetable and details on upcoming patches, including one coming tomorrow. Brilliant. In the partner program corner, both Just Trains and Skyhook Games will provide an update on their ongoing projects. And we also have a really interesting inside development section from our gameplay team, in which we talk about building our scenarios, including some information about some that never made it out to you. And finally, as a follow-up from last month's roadmap, we'll be inviting a new cohort of beta testers in the coming weeks. Right, are we ready for the roadmap? Here we go. So, upcoming content, the Glossop line, which is Manchester Piccadilly to Hadfield and Glossop. We expect this fully complete and self-contained route to release towards the back end of June, bringing with it its first appearance of Manchester Piccadilly Station and some really interesting services and scenarios. If you haven't already, and let's just check out the Made roadmap. With this route, we've tried to get creative with our scenarios, and the Glossop line you can play you can play as a guard. We spoke to Liam and Cameron, designers on our gameplay team, to find out more about it. And there's also information about the Glossop timetable below if you'd like to find out more generally about how we make scenarios. Cool, right, so tell us more about the guard scenario. The player will have a variety of guard-related tasks in the scenario, both on the train and at stations, but the focus is on operating the doors at stations, checking the train is safe to depart, and inspecting passenger tickets between stops, something brand new to Train Sim World. When a player interacts with passengers in this scenario, they will be shown the date and the upcoming destinations of the train they are working on, along with the passenger ticket. Now that is just fantastic. It's up to the player to compare the information of the passenger tickets with the current service. The player will be given an option to tell the passenger their ticket is valid or invalid, with an invalid ticket resulting in the passenger to be removed from the train at the next stop. That'll be fun. The player will earn points by correctly deciding the ticket's validity along with validity. There we go. Along with completing other guard actions. Why did we select this route for a scenario involving guard operations? I chose this route for the guard scenario due to the combination of having a train with guards, controls, and a route with lots of passengers stopped close together. A guard scenario is something that we've been wanting to add for a while, but it never felt right to do so on previous routes we worked on. I needed a train with a full set of guard controls on a route with passenger stops close enough together that the player would not be spending most of the scenario waiting for the train to reach its next destination. And what tech content had to be created specifically and uniquely for this scenario. Tech-wise, the Class 323 already had the guard controls needed for this, so that was a big help as it allowed me to go straight into prototyping the actions of a guard. The new tech needed was a way to interact with passengers themselves and inspect tickets. Passenger interaction was something I had already worked on before with the creation of the rail fans, but they were still for use at stations only. I had to create a way for these rail fans to board, ride and depart a train, along with giving each rail fan a train ticket, another new piece of tech. These tickets are randomly generated to match the train service the rail fan is riding, with some tickets randomly selecting an invalid travel date or destination to create an invalid ticket for the player to check. Now that is just absolutely fantastic. And I say absolutely, this is a scenario at the moment, so imagine if they could make this a whole mode within the game. Sort of you I don't know, load up the game and it's like, do you want to be driver or guard today? Just amazing step in the right direction. What was the process undertaken to go from idea to execution? It started with being a simple guard scenario made as a proof of concept, where the player would ride the back of a Class 323 and operate the doors for the driver. Once the basics were in, I looked at what else a guard could do, both on the train and at the stations. I was in contact with real guards who operate on 323s who were very helpful with their feedback of what was currently in the scenario, along with things that were missing and suggestions on how to make the scenario more accurate to real life. Ticket inspection was the obvious thing that was missing from the scenario and was something we would need to make the player feel like an actual guard. The ticket inspection gameplay started as a simple graphic of a good bad ticket and grew to a sort of mini game where the player would have to compare multiple bits of information to the ticket and decide on its validity. It was at this point we could see the scenario would be fun for players wanting to play as a guard, and it was a matter of polishing up the gameplay and adding some extra tasks to help really flesh out the scenario. Are there any other interesting scenarios players can look forward to? I think there's some great scenarios for this route, which include some fun new things players haven't seen before in scenarios, such as burst pipes flooding the tracks and a photo competition where players get a camera to use. Ooh. Glossop line timetable information. And a quick summary of what you can expect from the timetable at this stage, and please bear in mind this is still being developed. The timetable for Manchester to Glossop runs the Class 323 at 2 trains per hour. Trains typically run from Manchester to Glossop, then turn back to complete the run. It's quite weird if you haven't seen it. Google Maps, look at my train sim Woodhead line videos. You sort of have to go in and then sort of backtrack on yourself back up to Hadfield. Timings can be quite tight at stations, especially for both Glossop and Hadfield, with just 3 minutes between arriving and departing. These tight timings are what allows the route to just about manage 2 trains per hour frequency. Even with the quick turnaround, the next train for Hadfield must often wait until the train ahead has left Dinting, which is sort of at the top end of the branch line. There are some intricate details about this route, such as signal Golf Bravo 867, which protects Hyde North Junction, will always be red until the Manchester-bound train is ready to depart Newton. This also means that the approach signal for Newton, Golf Bravo 861, will never display a green aspect. Northern run 323s on a few other lines, such as both lines to Crewe, Stoke-on-Trent and Liverpool Lime Street to Manchester Airport. As for layers, it's a little early to talk about those yet, but for now we have the East Midlands trains 158, which will be making an appearance at Manchester for the hourly Liverpool Lime Street Norwich services, which you could then also drive on the Midland Main Line at some point, hopefully. It will mainly be AI, but also have one playable service, and ECS in the early hours to Liverpool that runs via Ashbury's. Pricing, and the Glossop line will be priced at £19.99, $24.99 and €24.99. So, I mean, that's cheap. I mean, for the line, I know it's a short line, but for what you're getting, that's quite cheap. And on to the big daddy of releases, if that's really the correct phrase, probably not. Work on the Class 700 continues in earnest, and we have some more screenshots for you, as well as bringing our resident Class 700 enthusiast James in to give you a slightly alternative update on what you can expect. So James's unhinged update on the Class 700. You want to talk more about the Class 700? Well, how long have you got? Alright, strap in. The teams have been busy working on all aspects of the Class 700, slowly bringing it together into a fantastic electric multiple unit, which I can't wait for you all to experience. While we're still quite far off from release, I thought I would share some of our latest progress, my favourite details, plus some other fun bits. For the first time, the interior. All the final furniture has gone in place throughout the unit, including first class tables and infamous iron and board standard class. It's all there, raring to be used by Medway's finest locals. And of course, we cannot look at the interior without admiring the modern PIS screens. Not every single screen has been implemented, but destination, cooling points and next stop schematics are a treat to behold. With each coach being an open-ended gangway, you can experience the hypnotic sensation of watching the train go around the corners and S-bends. It almost makes you want to do the silly walk down the whole length of the train. Brilliant. Very, very good. The screenshots, no complaints. I can see one thing I can't see is the maps. You can see on the, I don't know what screenshot's up at the moment, but on the sort of PIS one, you can see the instructions, the train evacuation instructions on the left-hand side above the doors, but on the right there should, I believe, be a Thameslink map. I'd imagine we probably would see that, as well. That's sort of just one of those things they add in. So maybe, I mean, it's still work in progress. In the cab, the screens are coming to life, and there's some interactivity included, which is fun to play around with brightness, day and night mode, cab aircon, and even regen braking are all options which can be toggled. Modern trains are state of the art in every right, and the Class 700 can even talk to you. Enjoy in-depth conversations where every response is driver. You have reset the DRA. Please check the signal, and you'll understand what it means eventually. It's like group sort of, and it's brilliant. You've also got, I think, TPWS and AWS operational. It's just fantastic, and that cab looks beautiful. Can't see the CCTV, or I think is it the DMI? I know there's there's like the HMI and the DMI. I think the DMI is not working there on the left, the two screens. I think they're sort of the cameras. And before a ride kicks off in the classified first class, we have included both DC and AC functionality. While we don't have the northern end of the Thameslink network in TrainSim World, so long as you're happy to endlessly place the 700 on other routes, you can experience the different motor sounds and physics, and we won't judge wherever you place it. Honest. That is superb. Dovetail, please make the East Coast Main Line South or Midland Main Line South. That would be great. Speaking of places, placing things, Daisy, who you might remember from our Birmingham Cross City content and live stream, one of our testers and trainee editor users, has flexed her creative muscles and working with the team has had all of the Thameslink specific stopping boards made to be placed into the southeastern high speed route. And due to the way the timetable already works, whether the stop at locations match these is not guaranteed, but our main goal is to make each station between Dartford and Rainham look more appropriate for the arrival of the 700. But yeah, you've got RLU, which is the reduced length unit, so that's the 8 coach one. That's the one we're going to be getting in TrainSim World. The full length unit, as I said, they don't run the Rainham service, but it looks like they've been future proofed. And all is for any 700. An SDO is, well, you can see selective door opening. You're supposed to stop here, but some coaches will be hanging off the back of the platform, and it says like JD's driving. Cool, and T, this stands for the totem pole shrine you see below. A T is a turnback board. This is the stopping point where the driver needs to change ends. It ensures, for example, that when you move to the other cab, they can still have sight of the starting signal. I actually didn't know that one, so cool to know. The timetable, drifting over nicely to the next topic, the timetable. The 700 will add a little over 80 services to South Eastern High Speed, filling out the half-hourly all-stop service between Rainham and Dartford. This brings a regular service to Higham, which currently only has South Eastern services in the rush hour, and also means Rainham Platform 0 will be used throughout the day. There are also naturally some morning and night ECS moves. Enjoy running the 700 without having to worry about the Kentish trouble, and I absolutely can't wait for the 700. Now, the keen modders among you have already been sneaky and found all of the Class 700 services, but joke's on you, we knew you would find them, but you won't find everything that we've added recently. One new addition, because people kept asking for them, is a few diesel rail tours, nicely complementing the already existing Jubilee tours. Once again, these are seasonal additions to the timetable, and you'll only see them as AI during select months. The Class 47 is back with a pair of services which mimic the long-lost cross-country services which used to serve the Kent coast, giving you one Oscar 99 and one Sierra 87 to run along the Chatham Main Line in the summer months. In TrainSim World 2, these services were started at Gravesend. However, given the addition of Dartford and how busy it is, squeezing anything in there was going to make Joe cry, so it now joins the route at Rochester. And then I made him cry anyway with the next edition. Being a Southern Region fan, I was always going to be a bit miffed if the Crompton didn't make an appearance. Thankfully, our pleas were heard, and now we have a couple of Class 33 excursions. The Kentish Crompton and the Medway Valley Crompton are a 6-parter and 2-parter respectively. Combined, they pretty much cover everything. I mean, that's just brilliant. The 33 is finally going to be sort of unleashed from its chains of being just on West Somerset Railway, and it will actually be on another route, which is great because it's just great to see it out of West Somerset Railway. Some additional tweaks and AI services have also gone in. Most notably, we've adjusted how the forward reverse class 465 turnback procedures work at Strood in the morning and even in Rush to be more prototypical. And at my most eager request, a winter seasonal AI service now appears at Strood, inspired by last year's Medway Valley Pullman service. There is also a seasonal static train going in, and we're not telling you where, but when and what stock, you'll just have to wait and see. Probably the Rivet Games Christmassy one. The final note on the timetable for now, engineering works at Belle Isle Junction are coming to an end, so with the 66 out of the way, we've put in all the East Coast Mainline Thameslink AI. Joe, you need to take a break, mate. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of services. I think that would be the 9 Sierra services from King's Cross up to Cambridge, and I think the Canal Tunnels, where do they come out? Possibly all of them as well, so the 9 Juliet services. Lastly, because I don't have all day, Scenario fans rejoice as the gameplay team have gone to town and back. A bumper collection of 7 scenarios to be included, and yes, that's right, 7 scenarios. Mega Desiro City action awaits, including some pretty funky situations. And I can see 2 coupled together there, which would be a bit weird, because then it would make 16 coaches, which would be weird. That's fantastic. And as a final note, this has not been tested yet, and above is subjected to change, and while we will endeavour to ensure these editions are available for all players, we will let players know if some timetable editions will be Gen 9 only, which is PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. German loco work is continuing on the German loco. We'll update further when we have more information. New York Trenton updated timetable. So, in last month's roadmap, we talked about work being undertaken on our newest US route to improve its timetable, and we have another update for you this month, courtesy of our very own Joe. Joe has been really busy. He needs a break. A recap. So, the full Amtrak timetable. At release, we had the full Amtrak timetable. Acela trains will stop at Trenton for the sake of these being playable, and for the New Jersey Transit service, we had 120 services, but not all of them. And then progress as of the May 2023 roadmap, full Amtrak and Acela, full electric NJT timetable. However, that wasn't all I wanted to do of this timetable. I'm sure you know what I'm thinking. Addressing the imbalance of ALP46 and multi-level lead services. One of the main criticisms of the timetable was of course the imbalance of ALP46 and multi-level lead services. Many lines that use push-pull train sets will usually have the loco always on one end. For example, on Hamburg to Lübeck, trains have the loco towards Lübeck. Another example is the Regional Express Run and Regional Express line on Cologne-Aachen, which always have the loco facing away from Aachen. This is not quite the case on the Trenton line due to the Sunnyside Yard loop. Any train entering Sunnyside Yard will go via the loop, which means it will face the other way. The difficulty here was trying to strike a close enough balance. I was able to get this balance quite close with just a few more for one than the other. Using the diagrams, each formation that leaves through portals will return facing the correct direction relative to how they left the map. Trains out of Hoboken, however, follow the typical practice of loco always on one specific end, so anything to and from Hoboken will always have the loco facing away from Hoboken. And short NJT Secaucus services. Now for the exciting stuff. I've had a couple of suggestions for extra services, AI and playable. One example is the NJT services from New York Penn towards Newark Broad Street. Some of these were present at release, and as of the last roadmap, they were all included, though they were all AI. I had a suggestion to make these those that stop at Secaucus into playable services. This was not the most straightforward thing to change to make, but was ultimately successful. So if you wish to drive the short 5 to 10 minute services, they're now there for you. And the last thing I've been looking at, something quite annoying for many players, sorting out the NJT service descriptions for NJT services from the New Jersey coastline. They would typically say drive the train from Trenton to New York Penn, which was a bit misleading. These have now been corrected based on where you pick up the train from Railway, Newark Airport and Newark Penn. Increasing double loco leading chances on Amtrak Northeast regional services and onto other important things. Some players have noticed that the Amtrak Northeast regional services have a very low chance to have a double loco leading. It was a very low chance, and as many seem to like it, I have increased it slightly. And in freight, American railroads are arguably best known for their freight. In fact, the freight on the Northeast Corridor was quite intriguing for me. It was the first service types I began researching back in November before acquiring passenger timetables, looking through several videos and forums for reference. I found enough information for 4 freight trains, ME02, ME47, ME84 and OI32. These trains are run by CSAO, which to my best understanding is a settled agreement between CSX and NS after the old CR lines were too complicated to divide up. Lovely. So, but what does it mean for the New York Trenton? Freight trains run trains with a mix of CSX and NS equipment, specifically the ex-controlled railroad equipment that have extra, Comrail equipment that have extra in-cab signalling. In Trenton World, these will require the sandpatch grade for the CSX GP38-2 that operate the trains, though there is a chance that one or multiple trains could be using the Norfolk Southern GP38-2 if you own Horseshoe Curve. Many of the cars pulled on these trains also have a medium chance to substitute into other railroad cars. I have seen, for example, CSX mixed with Burlington North Santa Fe and then Canadian National, which is quite like the videos I was using for reference. It also means that each time you play and see the same train, it will always look different. Slight side effect is that ME02 will have odd cars added and that it would not normally have. Okay, and one has a return service. Very nice. Let's see, so Long Island Railroad layer, wow, the most requested layer of all time. The good news, the Long Island Railroad layer, it's in, it works, better than I thought it would. This layer adds a whopping 500 Long Island Railroad services to New York Penn. Long peak trains run using north tunnels exclusively, and peak trains both use north and south tunnels. Long Island Railroad trains can be seen at New York Penn as far down as track 13, with Long Island Railroad, Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, and New York Penn during peak hours is almost non-stop with many simultaneous arrivals and departures. Long Island, it's basically going to be the London Victoria of New York Trenton. Long Island Railroad peak trains also run every 3 minutes in each direction, so there is plenty of activity passing Sunnyside Yard now. The Long Island Railroad layer for New York Transit will require New York Trenton will require just the Long Island Railroad route for the M7. Each formation 6, 8, 10, 12 have a 20% chance to substitute into the Long Island Railroad M3 if you own the DLC. I mean, Job, take a break. Now for some other important news, it won't be 100% accurate, specifically talking about West Side Yard. West Side Yard and Penn are extremely close and together have the capacity for 52 formations in the same area. Include all of the moving trains, you could be looking at 90 formations in the area, and performance-wise, it probably would crash. Actually, this is how I started making the Long Island Railroad layer. Before getting it to 9 AM and realising this would not work, so West Side Yard will be rather quiet. There are a few trains at an hour that go there if they have to switch platforms at Penn, but will not stay for too long. Consider that also West Side Yard won't be all that visible from Penn Station itself. It makes more trouble than it's worth. Wow. And for this reason, many of the Long Island Railroad trains that would end up at West Side Yard for several hours after the morning rush hour will instead head back towards Woodside. Joe, you're just amazing. Cool. So, Trenton Mod 3 core improvements and content patches. A progress summary on the core improvements the teams are working on. This month we have a quick add-ons manager update, HST livery designer functionality, Peninsula Corridor, Baby Bullet services. It's been out for like years. Add-ons manager, no extra news from last month. We're still in the process of testing Xbox add-ons manager, and we've been experiencing some crashing issues with the current build, so our engineering team will be taking another look at it. HST livery designer compatibility, it is going through tests still, so we hope to release later into June alongside some improvements to Great Western Express. Peninsula Corridor and Oakville Subdivision Baby Bullet services, we have a partial improvement for this issue that needs to be tested. If it passes testing, we'll be aiming to release it this month alongside another patch. Trenton Mod 2 Preservation Crew releases, nothing further. Let's see, so upcoming patches. Linker Rhinestrecker, this is Wednesday the 7th of June. various graphical route improvements, improved snow build-up, vehicles correctly stopping at level crossings, various and red lights improvements, BR103 windscreen wipers will now behave correctly, and headlight improvements for the IC coaches, Bremen Oldenburg, signalling improvements, improvements to the BR110 door operation, BR425 layers and TAJ 959 physics improvements, Midland Main Line, so that's tomorrow that is, timetable expansion, added 89 HST services, particularly between Derby and Leicester, added 20 Ivanhoe services between Leicester and Nottingham, added ROG service from Derby to Leicester and Class 375 Blue service, re-enabled Totten to Leicester aggregate freight service, updated Class 66 rail tour to use Southeastern Class 66 rather than the RHTT. Passengers should no longer get stuck in the doorway. Updated Class 158 physics. Rain and snow will now wipe away when using wipers. Updated vehicle coupling and logic. Remodelled bridges across the route. Numerous environmental fixes and updates, including station updates and adding new Derby roundhouse. Performance optimization across route. Console players will not receive the additional freight service. That's, I suppose, a bug. So, Rivet Games content patch. The BR204, wow. Rail driver support and just sort of about getting it up to Train Sim 3 standards. Isle of Wight Ride Shanklin, the old one, again, just seems to be general improvements to it. A Rosaline, again, general improvements. West Cornwall Local added sparks and snow kick up to the Class 150. Including Class 37/5 headlights correctly illuminating surroundings. Central Sways Luzon Cersei improved rain particles on the windscreen of the Flirt, and the 1938 tube stock play and AI headlight improvements, and added full guard panel functionality and added sparks. Peak Forest, I don't really know how that comes under as Rivet Games. Oh, no, I don't think it does. Adjusted volume of safeties on the 4F. And patched, expected to be later in June. Nidderdale Barn post. Does Nidderdale Barn even need a patch? HST livery designer functionality and Great Western Express improvements. Third-party developer update. So, Skyhook Games. As the post-release Midland Mainline patch comes ever closer, we've chatted to Jane, Skyhook's Chief Technical Officer, about their progress and what you can expect from the update. All of us at Skyhook would really like to express our appreciation and thanks to everyone who has provided feedback for the Midland Mainline. We have been delighted with the response to the route and all of the enthusiasm in sharing ideas and feedback with us. The patch update is now preparing for release, and in addition to addressing issues, we have also added as many requested features as we were able for our first patch. This includes a wholly revised timetable with close to twice as many playable services across the Midland Mainline network. We have also added some freight services for everyone to enjoy, and only on PC at the moment because I suppose a bug. Additionally, we have added a wide range of bespoke trackside assets to our route closer to the real world. This includes everything from custom bridges along the route to iconic buildings such as Derby Roundhouse. Station buildings have also received updates for enhanced detail as well. Traction has also had a significant update too, with improvements with both the HST and Class 158. The 158 is already becoming a firm favourite within the community, so we put in significant effort with professional engineers and drivers to add further to the realism. And there are 40 additions and tweaks to the Class 158 bringing exciting standards to the simulation. In addition to new content and features, we have addressed over 100 reported issues from signalling to timetable and traction fixes, with the team spending a considerable amount of time across the entire product, addressing everything from minor details to rare crash bugs. Nice, so Just Trains. This month, Alex from Just Trains gives an update on progress of the route's development, and we have our first work in progress screenshot. I'm sure someone will be able to find where that route is, so I know, check the Train Sim community Discord, someone will find it. The Just Trains team continues working hard on our first Train Sim World product. Our route building team has completed 30 miles of highly detailed and very immersive scenery. It really has been a pleasure to create. Our 3D artists continue to create a huge array of assets to populate the route from the minor to major stations, fantastic looking period signal boxes, road vehicles and clutter. But in saying that, clutter is a bit of a generic dull word that really does not convey the quality and passion that is going into all aspects of this product. As regards the vehicles that will be in the route are all coming along brilliantly, ranging from cars to vans to construction vehicles to our rail vehicle, although of course creating these can be a bit of a capper sometimes. Our aim with the product is to recreate the days of British Rail with a focus on a busy and varied timetable, for providing an immersive experience, featuring with our timetable featuring passenger, parcels, freight and shunting operations. And when driving our route, you will find that the timetable changes significantly depending on what season you are driving in, thus providing a wealth of possibilities. Alongside this, our use of layers, which will interact with other add-ons that you own, will mean that you'll never be able to certain on what might turn up. So probably Northern Transpennine, Tees Valley, Diesel Legends, that sort of stuff. Rivet Games. So yeah, they're working on their patches, and they'll come tomorrow. Inside development, making scenarios, and that goes on for quite a way as well. Wow, that does go on for quite a bit. Okay, right, here we go. Scenarios are a really important part of the Train Sim World experience and offer a completely different way to play the game. We spoke to Cameron and Liam, designers in our gameplay team, for more information about how we can make them, as well as some that didn't quite make it. Why do we make scenarios? We make scenarios because we want to offer players a unique gameplay experience from what they will get when they drive a train in the timetable. Scenarios are where we can get creative, and the trains and the routes they run while offering something different from a timetable service. We can make trains run unusual patterns, add new gameplay, set restrictions, and create a challenge for the player. And we're going to go for this really quick. What makes a great scenario? Cameron, I think what makes a great scenario is that it usually falls into one or all three categories that we have when coming up with scenario designs. Does the scenario offer a completely new experience? Has it got interesting premise, or is it simply fun to play? These are things that we try to think about during the design process, as we want to give players something that haven't experienced before, or put fun and interesting twist on an existing gameplay idea or feature. A good example of one of these scenarios is the guard scenario for the Glossop line, a brand new type of gameplay that has not been seen anywhere else before. To me, a great scenario offers something fun and unique to the player which you wouldn't see in a timetable service. This could be in the form of a challenging scenario where we test how well a player can perform under hard or restricted conditions, or something relaxing with the new gameplay such as the Chinley Gala on Peak Forest, where players could decide which trains they drove in their own time. What internal factors do we have to take into account when creating a scenario? When designing scenarios, we must always keep things like the appearance of licenses, our game's age rating, and plausibility in mind. These factors are closely connected and are important for us to consider during the design process, as they usually dictate what we can and can't include. To give you an example, we couldn't include a scenario where a train has derailed, as the rail company we are working with would never allow us to depict their trains in that condition, despite it potentially being an event that has happened in real life. Plausibility is another factor we always consider when making almost anything. When designing scenarios, we are allowed some degree of flexibility when it comes to creating events in the narrative and how far we can deviate from real-world operations. We always make sure that we write into the story of that what can happen in real life or has happened at some point, to ensure it stays grounded and doesn't affect the player's immersion by giving them a situation that they don't know doesn't make any logical sense. This is one area where we can pull from our own vast railway knowledge, as well as knowledge of our great community team members, with many of them having worked as staff on a variety of different railways. We often work with them during the design phase and in later development to ensure that we are designing it possible and can happen. We also always try to include as much of their feedback as possible to ensure we are creating the best experience possible for each scenario. We also have to factor the stock and the route itself when creating a scenario for a pack, as we like to keep the scenarios close to reality. We do our best to avoid running trains in places they wouldn't go, or to performing tasks they would never perform. Of course, being a scenario, we can get creative and bend the rules if we come up with a plausible reason. Would you say scenarios are playground to try new and exciting things? Definitely, scenarios allow us the opportunity to design and create brand new types of gameplay, and give us the chance to work on new systems and features that we know players will enjoy. Developing new scenarios has given us the chance to build things like interactable NPC characters, or being able to step into the shoes of a guard and check tickets instead of being in the role of a driver. It's these sorts of additions, even the smaller ones, that can really make a scenario feel unique and memorable. Of course, timetable mode is great for simulating real-life train movements and letting players drive a train as it is in real life, but it's scenarios that let us explore new ideas and add conditions and gameplay to these railways, where we can move away from the restrictions of an accurate everyday timetable and add a new experience which you may not see in every day on the railway. Why are we able to create a certain experience within a scenario but not translate that to service mode? Service mode works by running a simulated 24-hour timetable based on a real working timetable with no added scripting. As this timetable is simulated to exact timings, we cannot add or adjust trains on this timetable without the trains getting stuck. Instead, for scenarios, we create a smaller timetable based around the hours the scenario is set, where we are free to add and time trains to what we need for that scenario. Scenarios can also have scripting and scenery added to them, giving us the ability to add gameplay outside of driving a train, such as adding faults to a train, changing the weather at specific times, or adding objectives outside of driving a train. And what scenarios are you of the team most proud of, and when released? For me, personally, you're most proud of the Chinley Gala scenario on Peak Forest because of how unique it felt, and its free roam style and educational rail fans around Chinley. And some of our team's favourite include Worst Winter from Spirit Steam, Cutting Closure East Coastway, Limited Power, Clinchfield, and Freight Diversion Roma Austin. Do you have... Oh my, there's more. It's more. Do you have some examples of other scenarios which didn't see the light of day? You know what? I'm going to put that on the screen now, and you can pause the screen and read it if you want. So the Train to Tomorrow roadmap, Dovetail Games, Glossop, Class 700, German Loco, Partner Program, UK Route, BR420, Core Features, Add-ons Manager, Derailing Improvements, Save Game Improvements, Performance Optimization, and yeah, we're going to leave it there because it just sort of goes over what we've already seen. That was too long. Links can be found in the usual places, Discord, PayPal, merch store. Do leave your thoughts in the comments below. Apart from that, thanks for coming in. Hopefully we'll see you next time. See you all. Take care. Bye guys.